Okay, so I will call this regular meeting of the Kent Planning and Zoning Commission of Thursday, March 9, 2023 to order at 7:03 p.m.
Where's O'Brien?
I will, roll call is myself, Daryl, Adam, Wes, Karen, Alice. Wes, Adam, Daryl, Karen, Alice, Matt. That's the 6 seated members. And Chris Harrington is here as an alternate, and I don't see Annie. I will at this point elevate Chris to voting status. So we've got a 7 member seated for voting. And then I will move on to agenda items 3. So the first is 3A, approval of the special meeting minutes of February 6, 2022. I look for a motion to approve as written.
I make a motion that we approve the special meeting minutes of February 6th, 2023.
Second.
Thanks, Adam and Daryl. Any discussion? All those in favor, so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye. Great, that's all of us. So that motion carries. Agenda item 3B are the regular meeting minutes of February 9, 2023. And I would look for a motion on those as well.
I'll make a motion that we accept the regular meeting minutes of February 9th, 2023.
Second.
Great, thanks you two again. Any discussion? All those in favor, so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye. And that is all of us. Great, thanks. So that motion carries. 3C are the special meeting minutes of February 16, 2023. And I would look for motion there.
I'll make a motion.
All right, Adam.
Accept the special meeting minutes of February 16th, 2023.
I'll second that.
Who served?
All right.
I did. Sorry, Dale.
And all those in favor, so signify. Oh, I'm sorry. Any discussion? All those in favor, so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye. And that's all of us as well. So that motion carries. And the last meeting minutes to approve are those of March 2nd, the special meeting, March 2nd, 2023.
Okay. Special meeting minutes of March 2nd, 2023. I make a motion that we accept them. Everybody's slow.
Second.
All right, great. Thanks, Daryl and Adam and Wes for all that work. And any discussion? And all those in favor, so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye. And that's all of us. Great, thanks everybody. Okay, so public communication oral. This is agenda item number 4. And I will ask, is there anybody in the audience who has business before the commission that is not on the agenda? And I'm seeing no hands up. Hey, Annie. And great, then I'm going to move on to agenda items 5, which are old business. And the 5A are public hearings, and 5A1 is application numbers 118-22SP and 117-22C. Susan Hugh and Jeffrey Kane Weiser, trustees, 100 North Main Street, map 19, block 42, lot 1, renovation of existing barn into a 2-bedroom accessory dwelling unit. I will reopen this public hearing, and I, with the permission of the commission, will not read again into the record the legal notice, which we read at our last meeting when we first opened this public hearing.
Okay with me.
Great, then I would ask, Ty, is there anything that you want to add or bring us up to speed on before we go to the applicant?
Yeah, sure. So I think you were just waiting on the sewer approval for this application. You held the public hearing open to accept that, and that did come through this week. So I think we're pretty much set. That was the only other thing that you were waiting on. I think the applicant slightly changed revised the plans a little bit, but nothing that had much of an impact with regard to planning and zoning. And Andrew Corrigan is here if you have any questions for him.
So they revised the interior of the plan?
Sorry, Ty, we actually didn't do a revision. We
Andrew,
just,
Can you say who you are first? For the
I
record?
apologize. My name's Andrew Corrigan. I'm the project architect for the project at 100 North Main. And thanks for opening this meeting or leaving this meeting open for us. I really appreciate it. The only change in the sheets that I sent through was to clarify and put more accurate graphic detail on the sewer connection, which we obtained by having our completed underground survey. And that was what was presented to the sewer commission. So I wanted the two documents to align so that you weren't seeing something different than they had. So there was no change to our strategy or anything other than graphically more accurately representing the connection to the existing lateral.
And Andrew, that's it's my understanding the last time we met, and correct me if I'm misremembering, that the sewer was going to be connected through the crawl space of the existing house, and now it's shown outside of the house, or was it always run not within the footprint of the existing?
It was always going to be not within the footprint of the existing, but it was going to be close. So we knew that it came out of the house at some point. And so we had kind of put our connection shown over towards, there's a Bilco door. So we knew it was going to be somewhere around the area, but once we actually did a camera through everything and had a surveyor locate everything, it kind of comes out of the house and we're connecting at that point outside.
And you're not making a new connection out in the street, right? You're making that connection on the property.
That's correct.
I remember the last time also that we had asked for the parking spaces to be shown diagrammatically anyway on the drawing, and I see that that's been done. So you're showing the 4, the 2 and 2.
That's right. Sorry, I forgot to mention that as well. Those should be shown on the updated sheets.
So I'm looking at the site plan, and there's a lot of lines on it. It looks to me like it shows an attachment from the house to the barn, but that's not true, right?
No, there's no attachment. I can, if you'd like me to share my screen, I can pull up that drawing and
Sure,
I'll walk you through it.
that's great.
Okay, so I guess this page would be the easiest to show. So here's the existing barn.
Yeah.
And then this is the existing house.
Right.
These are just showing the new water line and the new and an electric utility trench to the barn.
Okay, well, what are the lines running perpendicular from the barn into the house? There's 2 lines that either look like a sidewalk or a passageway, or it's hard to determine. There's a lot of lines here.
I'm sorry, I was probably just attempting to kind of graphically show the extent of that trench. Then there's a silt fence. So it's not meant to show anything other than underground work. There's no above ground connection. There's no above ground work in this area. There's no change to the barn footprint at all.
It's just hard to understand, that's all.
I apologize. Yep, I understand.
And also, is that a walled enclosure around the pool?
So the pool has an existing hedge that runs,
Oh, that's a hedge, okay.
and it has a fence within it to comply with pool enclosure requirements. So there is an existing hedge here. We're proposing to extend it here with the gate.
Okay. It just wasn't noted or called out. I didn't understand.
I called it out here as new native 9-bark hedge
Okay,
with this here. So it'll be a native plant.
okay.
Can I add real quickly that you did note new water line to barn, but that arrow actually passes the line, and that may be where the confusion is with Wes. So that area right there, yeah, that line that you're drawing on there, or you're cursoring over.
That's right.
You know, that arrow does not point to that line. That arrow points past that line. So that makes it look like that there's a connecting area from the house to the barn.
I'm sorry. That's correct. That's a graphic error on my part. This should be pointing to this line right here, this new water line.
Any other questions from the commission? Any concerns from the public? I have, Andrew, I have one question regarding the exterior lighting that I know we spoke about the last time. I don't see any lighting shown on the elevations.
That's right. So we have been discussing, well, we just haven't picked a fixture, but we would use a most likely probably one or two sconces that are downlights, either in probably one over here and then one in the center here, that would conform with the lighting requirements. We just haven't picked a fixture with the client yet. They've been traveling, so we've kind of we haven't really been able to nail that down. But that's the hope, is that we would either do that, or we would we would have we do show path lighting leading to the barn that are downlights, but then in terms of what would be on the facade itself, it would just be those two sconces.
Okay.
So
I spent some time, mostly for the comments or for the commission. I spent some time looking through, considerations of the site plan approval and considerations of the special permit and considerations of the Kent Village Overlay District. We did get, the applicant did get approval from the ARB. They showed the parking, which are considerations of the Kent Village Overlay District. Well, I went through 10-350, 10-440, and 10-450, and I am generally satisfied that the application meets the conditions, but I was hoping that you all would weigh in on that as well. And if there's any other questions, maybe get them out now before we consider closing the public hearing.
I don't have any questions. I think it's all mapped out here, with the exception of the questions that have already been asked and answered just now.
Anybody else on the commission?
So the only exterior lighting that you have would be on the, I guess, the southern face, the face facing towards town?
That's correct.
Okay. Certainly not on the north or, okay, yep.
That's right.
Well, and the path lighting, which he has on the plans.
Right.
That's correct.
Then is the commission ready to consider closing the public hearing?
Well, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion, then we can discuss it. I'll make a motion that we close application 11822 SP and 11722C. Susan Hugh and Jeffrey Kane Weiser, trustees of 100 North Main Street, map 19, block 42, lot 1, renovation of existing barn into a 2-bedroom accessory dwelling unit.
I'll second.
Any discussion before we close the public hearing? Then I'll call the vote. All those in favor, so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye. And that is the 7 of us. Okay, thanks, everybody. Okay, so I think the first order of business now coming out of the public hearing is to approve waivers. And that's 6A1 application. And the waivers can be found in the agenda item file, agenda in the Google Drive, agenda item 6A1 351 Kent Cornwall Road, Kent Cornwall Road application. And they can be found on
Not 6A1. There it is. There.
no, you're right. You're right.
I don't see any waivers.
5B.
And we're on 5A1. So we did that,
5A1.
and then we're jumping.
Now we're going to 5B2, right? No, I'm sorry. Sorry,
Yeah.
Adam. We were at 5A1 and we closed the public hearing. Now we're moving on to agenda item number 5B1.
Right.
And then I pulled up the site plan application from the meeting 2 months ago, where they're looking at. So I'll walk you through them. Okay, the waivers that had been requested at the beginning. So they're requesting waivers for existing and proposed grading with contours at 2-foot intervals or less. They're looking for a waiver for the location of any property signs, any proposed signs. And they're looking for a waiver to number 5, a utility plan showing. Although they've shown the locations and descriptions of water supply and sewage disposal facilities. The location and design of existing proposed storm drainage facilities and location and design of refuse disposal facilities. They're asking for a waiver for the construction notes and details. They're asking for a waiver for number 10, which is offsite information, including but not limited to the location of buildings, parking areas, curb cuts, adjoining properties, including those across the street, traffic lights and controls, public trees, catch basins, etc. They're looking for a waiver for number 11, impact analysis to the development upon water supply, storm drainage, sanitary sewer traffic, special emphasis on any scenic road impacted. A waiver for the location of stone walls, archaeological resources, scenic views, and other attributes. And number 13, which has to do with the applications for special permit involving the construction of more than 25 dwelling units.
I will make a motion that we accept those waivers as read by Matt. But I would also like to say in the future, I think when we have these things, we should have the complete information in the current months
Right.
file. Going back and forth, having to find them 2 months later there's too much information, too much stuff going on to do that.
So I'll second that motion.
Great, thanks, Adam. Thanks, Wes. Any discussion regarding the waivers? Then I'll call the vote. All those in favor, so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye. And that is the 7 of us, right? 1, 2, 3. Yep. Okay, good. So that motion carries. And now for the final discussion and possible decision on this application. And do the commissioners have any other comments before we consider a motion? Then I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept applications 118-22 SP and 117-22C. Sue Zin Hugh and Jeffrey Kane Weiser, trustees, 100 North Main Street, map 19, block 42, lot 1, renovation of existing barn into a 2-bedroom accessory dwelling.
Second that.
Second.
Okay. Thanks, y'all. Any further discussion from the commission? And I would call the vote. All those in favor of so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye. And that is all of us. Great. Thanks, y'all. Ty, what's the next step for the applicant?
I will send out a letter, letting him know, that he needs to apply for his regular zoning permit, building permits, all that kind of stuff. It'll be posted in the paper, legal knows 15 days appeal period, and then everyone can move forward.
Okay, any questions, Andrew?
No, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
You're okay. Great. So let's move on to new business. And there's a series
Well,
of public
Matt,
hearings.
We need to make a motion to move 5B2, which I'll make right now. Make a motion that we move 5B2 to after 6B4.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye. And that's a 7 of us again. Okay, so that motion carries. Thanks, Adam, for keeping me on track. So we've got a series of public hearings, and I would like to remind the people in the public that this is a public hearing. It's a public meeting, and we're also going to be opening up public hearings. Audio and video should be on when members of the public want to speak. When it's time, we'll ask you to raise your hand and we'll call on you, and you can speak. We ask that you be respectful. And this isn't just for the members of the public. This is for really everybody in the commission as well. That we ask that everybody is respectful, that we seek first to understand and then be understood. That we listen carefully, we don't interrupt, we stay on topic and speak for yourself, but not for others. And it's okay to disagree, but remember that this is a discussion, not a debate. Be candid, and also please avoid making assumptions, particularly about the intention and beliefs and motives of others. When you are speaking, members of the public, if you would first identify yourself. And we ask that you, as I said, put your video on, and certainly you'll have to take yourself off mute. So with that, I will move to 6A1, agenda 6A1, and this is application number 13-23 SP, KCR FNC LLC, Deanna Johnson, agent, 351 Kent Cornwall Road, map 8, block 10, lot 6, pre-existing non-conforming change of use from retail to personal service. And I will read this into, I'm going to read the legal notice into the record. The Town of Kent Planning and Zoning Commission shall hold a public hearing via Zoom meeting on Thursday, March 9, 2023, beginning at 7 p.m. to discuss and possibly act on application number 13-23 SP, KCR FNC LLC, Deanna Johnson, agent, 351 Kent Cornwall Road, map 8, block 19, lot 6, pre-existing non-conforming change of use from retail to personal service. Any corresponding documentation will be attached to the agenda, which can be found on the town's website. At this hearing, persons may participate and be heard. Zoom meeting number can be located on the official agenda that will be filed on the Town of Kent's website a minimum of 48 hours prior to the official Zoom meeting. That's by me, Matthew Winter, Chairman. And with that, Kai, would you like to say anything about the application?
Sure. Yeah, it came to us kind of via the health department. There was a licensing issue, and this hairdresser has been in business for quite some time, but there was a little bit of a snafu with the licensing with the health department that kind of uncovered the fact that they never actually did a proper change of use with planning and zoning. So, you know, they've got to get straightened out with us before they can sign off the health department, keep on going with. So most people know this as the old like Lens Electric, I guess, office. A lot of people know this building. It's a commercial building in the rural district that's been there since the 70s. Basically, yeah, that's the sum of it. Diana is here. She's received authorization from the property owner to act as agent.
Thanks, Ty. Deanna, would you like to tell us anything before we have a good discussion between us and the commission?
No, I just want to get it from retail to service. I was assured by my previous landlord that it was taken care of, and I just want to get this.
Okay. Does anybody on the commission have any questions or comments? I trust that everybody's had a chance to look through the information that is posted in our folder.
Diane's been there for a million years and she has a wonderful business, and I think we don't need to spend a lot of time on this.
So I think the question is, you know, that space there has been not always, but has been non-conforming for a while. So that I think our job here tonight is to be sure that the change of use is not doesn't increase the nonconformity. So I think that's the question. The use has the same parking requirements. It's a commercial use, but you know, I'd look for the commission to let us know to comment whether this is an increase in the nonconformity, or whether it's equal, or whether it's a decrease in the nonconformity. I don't think it's a decrease.
I think that, I mean, I remember when it was a pet food store. And then there have been some things there before. I know that that the hairdresser's been there for hair salon for a long time. You know, and I also know that the previous landlord, the previous owner of the building, had told her all of this was done, or she would have dealt with it at the time. So, you know, considering the time that she's been there and what has been in there previously, I don't think it's increasing the nonconformity. I think it's just been consistent.
I concur with that.
And you both feel that if we had looked at this, if we were looking at this as a new application now for a change of use, that notwithstanding the fact that that Deanna's been there for as long as she has, if we were to make that decision today, you would believe that it's not increasing the nonconformity.
I think that had we looked at it when she was going in there, like she was told, that it would have been accepted and it wouldn't have been considered increasing the nonconformity. That's the best way I can kind of answer that.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Karen and Daryl and Chris, do you have any comments or thoughts?
I live right up the street and certainly haven't noticed any increase in nonconformity. You know, I would say that the personal service may even be less intensive than the retail nature of the business that was there before. I used to shop there for dog food, so I would say it was busier at that point.
I agree with Daryl. I think it's actually a less intense use. Way back when, I don't know if you all remember, but it was actually a health food store and a house and had 2 kitchens. So I don't think that this is making it more non-conforming.
I think that she's been there for 5 years and no one's really noticed. I mean, she's not increasing the amount of parking. She's not increasing the amount of people that are going in and out of that place. It was retail before. There were more cars there before. You know, she was running her business under the premise that this was taken care of by the previous landlord. He never did it. So she's just trying to get the change of use to continue her business the way she's operating now.
Okay, thanks.
I'll
Is
make
there
the
any,
pictures
are
up
there
there.
any comments from members of the public? If there's no other comments, I don't see any members of the public who have comments, and if there's no other comments from the commission, then I think we could entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion. Close public hearing, application 1323 SP.
Great, thanks, Wes.
I'll second
second.
that.
Karen,
Great, thanks, Karen.
Matt,
Any further discussion?
I need to recuse myself because Diana is a friend of mine for this vote.
Okay,
right.
then I will elevate, thanks, Chris.
Yep.
I will elevate Ann voting status if you're
Yeah.
comfortable with that.
Sure he does that.
Okay, then I'll call the vote. So all those in favor, so signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Okay, and that motion carries. So the public hearing is closed. What is the pleasure of the commission? Shall we move 6B1 up into the agenda for right now so that we can finalize the review of this application, or should we go through all the public hearings and then come back and do it?
No, that makes sense. I'll make that motion.
Okay, great.
Definitely second.
All right, good. Thank you both. Then this is agenda item 6B1 that we're hearing now after 6A1. And the first thing that we should do is, as you noticed in Ty's administrative report, is that a site plan was not required because of the nature of the change. So we should waive the requirement for a site plan.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, great. Thanks, you two. And then any discussion regarding the waiver of the site plan? Then all those in favor so signify by saying aye or raising your hand. And that motion carries. Okay, great. That's all of us. And then any discussion on the application itself? And if there's none, then I would entertain a motion regarding the application itself.
I will make a motion that we accept application. Where are we? Application 22-23 SP and 22.
It's
Oh, no, wrong one.
13.
Where is it?
23.
Oh, 13-23 SP KCR FNC LLC, Diane Johnson, agent 351 Kent Cornwall Road, map 8, block 19, lot 6, pre-existing non-conforming change of use from retail to personal service.
Second.
Okay, good. Thanks, you two. Then if there's no further discussion, then I would call the vote. All those in favor so signify by saying aye or raising your hand. And that is 7 of us as well. Okay, that motion carries. Thanks, everybody. And Ty, any what's next for the applicant?
Yeah, same thing. 15-day appeal period. I'll send you a letter in the mail. It'll go in the paper, the legal notice of the decision, and then you can move forward with Kathy to get your license in order, and then you'll be all good and legal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
All right, great. So now we are at in order 6A2. This is application numbers 20-23SP and 19-23C. John and Adele Johnson, 154 South Kent Road, map 5, block 12, lot 85. Construction of shed located in the area between the principal building and a public street located 85 feet from the front lot line. And I will read this public notice into the record. Yeah, this is the town. The Town of Kent Planning and Zoning Commission shall hold a public hearing via Zoom meeting on Thursday, March 9, 2023, beginning at 7 p.m. to discuss and possibly act on application numbers 20-23SP and 19-23C. John and Adele Johnson, 154 South Kent Road, map 5, block 12, lot 85. Construction of shed located in the area between the principal building and public street located 85 feet from the front lot line. Any corresponding documentation will be attached to the agenda, which can be found on the town's website. At this hearing, persons may participate and be heard. The Zoom meeting number can be located on the official agenda that will be filed on the Town of Kent's website a minimum of 48 hours prior to the official Zoom meeting. And that's by me, Matthew Winter, Chair. So this is 6A2. Ty, bring us up to speed a little bit.
Sure. So Mr. Johnson is looking to put a shed in front of his main dwelling within the 100 feet allowable. So it's 82 feet, I believe, 85 feet, I'm sorry, from the road. So that's why this application is before you. I did spend a lot of time looking at the horizon line on his property. It seems like the shed kind of falls right in that area. However, it's a 12 by 16 shed. So it falls under that 200 square foot minimum that, you know, you would have to go to the horizon line. So he's basically just in front of you for the, just having the shed in front of the house within the 100 feet.
Thanks, Ty. Hello, John.
What are you doing?
I think I finally unmuted, huh? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, all.
Good
Is
evening.
there anything that you'd like to tell us, John, about the application and what you'd like to do?
Just quickly, it's a small storage shed for, you know, lawnmower, snowblower, kayaks, that sort of thing. To go far, to get beyond the 100-foot setback would put us much farther up the steep part of the hill on our property, require a lot more excavation and not be nearly as convenient as the location that we picked right off the driveway. I don't know that my photography is very good. I don't know that my drawing on top of the photography is very good. I think my scale on the building is too big, but that's it. Would require relatively little excavation, maybe a 3-foot retaining wall on the uphill side of the building. I think it's the least disturbance to the property where it's at and most convenient for us.
Thanks, John. Any questions from the commission before we open it up to the public? So I have a couple of questions, John. Thanks for putting for doing that, the drawing on the pictures. My question has to do more with, with the grading that's going to have to happen. You mentioned excavation and what's hardscaping. What provisions are going to be made for screening from the road, if any? What will your stormwater, what will you do to prevent runoff or to manage the runoff, and will you have any lighting on the shed?
Let's see. That was about 4 questions, right?
You want me to start over? What's that? What are you gonna do with the grading?
Okay. I think the little bit of digging into the hillside we have to do would be pushed on the downhill side. We would need to fill on the downhill side just a little bit. I see it as relatively little grading. Planning a slab on grade, over a gravel bed, so it won't be excavated for a full foundation, or frost foundation.
And that's in the hardscape. Will you do any kind of a walkway up to the shed?
Yes, this location is pretty straight, level from the driveway. Maybe a 10 or 12 inch rise from the driveway. So it's pretty much follows the contour of the ground that's there for access.
And are you planning any screening on the roadside? Will you put any plantings in to minimize the view from the road?
I was not planning that, no. Anything from the location of the building, there's a steep, fairly steep drop off of about 5-6 feet. They would have to be big plantings, tall plantings to, 20 feet high to do much good. We are letting the natural revegetation grow, whatever that is. We could plant something, but it would have to be very large to provide any real screening.
It seems to indicate that where the shed's going to go seems to show that you're going to take some trees down.
Yes. Let's see. I'm guessing 2 trees about a 12-inch diameter, and several much smaller ones after that. Just enough to fit the building itself.
And the last question from me now, John, is you said that you thought maybe the scale is off, but you're still, I understand what the footprint is, but what do you think the height of the shed's going to be?
8-foot walls, probably about a 8-inch pitch. I really haven't drawn it up yet. A simple gable roof on top of 8-foot walls. So,
but under 12 feet, you think?
Let's see, 6. I would think that would be the maximum, yes. Well, plus the rafter height, so 12.5 would be the maximum.
All right, thanks, John. Anybody on the commission?
It's hard to get excited about something that de minimis. It's a very small shed. I think the impact would be almost non-existent.
I don't even know that you really see it, once there are any leaves on the trees at all. It seems like it's a pushback.
And anybody from the public have anything to say or ask?
They're making a big deal about that stupid shit that is.
A bunch of the local.
So could you all mute yourselves if we can hear
They're
the
putting
side
that
conversation?
stuff on purpose.
Why is that?
So I don't hear any comments from the public. Are there any other questions from the commission? You know, this is a special permit. I know, as Wes said, it's de minimis. I just want to make sure that we understand that we're making sure that we're following the regulations, 10.350, 10.440, and 10.450. I've gone through them and satisfied myself, but if anybody's got any questions, then they should ask now before we consider closing the public hearing.
Matt, I will add, I do plan just a small light over the door. One exterior light, it would, meet the requirements.
Thank you, John. Then I would look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept applications 20 dash.
We have to close the
public
public hearing.
Oh, we have to. So I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
Great, thanks y'all. Any further discussion regarding the public hearing? Then all those in favor so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye. And that is, where's Annie? There she is. Okay, that's the 7 of us. That motion carries. Okay, and then the next, I would look for a motion then to move agenda item 6B2 up to now, so we can dispense with this application at once.
I'll
I make that motion.
Great, thanks, Adam and Wes.
Yep, second.
And then all those in favor so signify by saying aye or raising your hand. And that's all of us. Chris, you in? Oh no, Chris isn't voting. Okay, yep, that's all of us. That motion carries. And then we are looking to accept the waivers from this application. And I could pull those up and read them if everybody needs me to do that, or
I have them.
somebody's got those handy.
I make a motion that we accept the waivers 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. As
Second.
requested.
Okay, thanks you two. Any discussion? Then all those in favor, so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye. And that motion carries. Then we are at we're at the application itself. I know this is a lot of motions to get through, but they're public hearings and like to follow the process throughout. And as I said, I did go through the application, and as Ty said, there's horizon line considerations, but we're really outside of them. And even if we're not, the de minimis nature of the clearing and the size of the shed, to use Wes's words, lead us outside of the or allow the application to comply with the Horizon Line Conservation District regulations. And with regard to the site plan application and the special permit application, I believe that it satisfies the requirements.
You know, in reading the staff report, you know, like you said, she does say that it's just outside of the horizon line, but you know, just outside is outside of the horizon line. So if it's outside of the horizon line, and I believe that anybody has the right to put a shed of this size on their property, according to the regulations. So
yeah, it's only the location, it being, you know, in front of and within 100 feet. So and that's one of the reasons why we're here. But any other commissioners have any comments? Great, thanks Adam for thinking about it. And then so I would look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept applications 20-23 SP and 19-23 C. John and Adele Johnson, 154 South Kent Road, map 5, block 12, lot 85, construction of shed located in the area between the principal building and the public street, located 85 feet from the front line.
Second.
Any further discussion? And all those in favor, so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye.
Aye.
And that is the 7 of us as well. Great. Thank you all. That motion carries. John, you know the drill. At least I think you probably remember the drill.
Yes.
Okay, well, it's nice to see you.
All right.
No special treatment even for past chairs.
Thank you all. And part of the procedure is that I get to sign off now. So
All right. Thanks, John.
thank you all.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, then I would move on to agenda item 6A3. And I will read this into the public record. This is the legal notice. The Town of Kent Planning and Zoning Commission shall hold a public hearing via Zoom meeting on Thursday, March 9, 2023, beginning at 7 p.m. to discuss and possibly act on application numbers 22-23 SP and 23-23 C, and request for modification to 45-15 SP, 33 Camps Road LLC, 33 Camps Road, map 17, block 28, lot 30, to allow for farm store, outdoor tasting room, standard pours, sale of beer in sealed containers, events, and entertainment. And any corresponding documentation will be attached to an agenda, which can be found on this town's website, on the town's website. At this hearing, persons may participate and be heard. The Zoom meeting number can be located on the official agenda that will be filed on the Town of Kent's website, a minimum of 48 hours prior to the official Zoom meeting. And that's by me, Matthew Winter, Chair. And with that, I think I'll follow the same process and ask Ty if there's anything that you would like to tell us before we jump into our own comments. I know you did a pretty comprehensive staff report that I'm sure that we've all read. But if there's something that you want to bring us up to speed on.
Yeah, I mean, the only comment I would have, and I think it was in my staff report, where there were 2 additional items that they had discussed asking for, and I didn't think that they were appropriate because their regulations didn't allow for that. It would require a regulation change, and one of them was the sale of food, or a restaurant use of some sort. And then the other one was changing the bed and breakfast, which is required to have the owner live there, to an Airbnb, which is not something that I see the regulations allowing for. So, that can be an outside discussion if you'd like. Perhaps I'm misunderstanding, but those were the 2 things that they wanted in addition, and they didn't seem like appropriate for these applications.
So, Ty, are those 2 items addressed in the application to modify the special permit?
So initially, the application to modify came in with the request for the sale of food as well, but not the Airbnb versus the bed and breakfast was an issue that actually came up via a complaint later, not long later, but later. So
So let's let that conversation. I'd like to talk about what they're asking for specifically, and if the conversation goes to those couple of things, then the commission can talk about it.
okay.
And then we'll see where that goes. If we do that, if we talk about both things, I'd like to sort of contain them into discussions so that we're not peppering those discussions in with the overall. I like those to be distinct. discussions, and there's a reason for that, which will become clear later. So I know that there have been, there's 26 or 26, I think I counted last. It's letters that have been written, and they are in the record. And I would suggest, if it's okay with the balance of the commission, that we accept all of those letters into the record without the obligation to read them all out loud now.
I agree with that.
Fine. Karen, you're okay with that? You're
Well, I'm just wondering when the commission would be able to read the letters. I haven't seen any in my package. I don't know of what the letters say.
They are, the format for those was a little bit different this month. They're in folders at the, well, for me, they were at the top. So they're in a distinct folder. And it's labeled, hold on, let me get there.
They're labeled 6A333 camps application. That's the first one. Mine are on the top also. Then 6A333 camps public comments letters. That folder has all of the letters in it. And then there's a third folder, 6A333 camps additional info. They're at the top of. like a
I
timeline.
see them now in the Google Drive. I'm sorry, I did not see them earlier. Maybe you could tell us about them.
Well, I think
Say something, give us some input. I mean, I think people want, I guess we have them, so I'll have to read them, but anyways, thank you.
Can I ask Matt how many letters there are?
You said there's
so let
26.
me count them. I counted 26. I think I counted 26. So let me just.
Ty and Matt, have any come in since these were posted to us?
I was posting even after hours this evening, so unless something came in during the meeting, I think we're up to date.
Okay, thank you.
Perhaps the folks, if they're
I have
here at the
32, Matt.
meeting, could comment on that. Could tell us.
And I like that idea, Karen. I think that, maybe to follow the format that we've been following tonight, that we should give the applicant a chance to speak when we're ready. So I'll definitely put a pin in that in that comment about letting the public talk to their letters. But I do think that it's important that the commission read all of the letters. And Ty, if you were doing things, if you were posting these letters right up until the minute of the meeting, then Adam, you said there were 33?
32 or 33.
32. So I've missed 6 of them. Right. So, there should be some kind of a cutoff. It's really not fair for us to be getting information up to the minute of the meeting when there's been plenty of time to get the information to us. So I'll have to read those 7 letters, those 6 or 7 letters, and I suspect that because I haven't read those, then I am going to need some more time to deliberate. So I think we'll have the opportunity, Karen, to read them. I don't expect that we're going to be closing this public hearing anytime soon.
Matt, did you read the 26 ones that you knew of?
I did.
And was the consensus more towards or more against?
I don't think you can answer that like that.
Oh,
Honestly, you know what? I read them. There are letters there that are for it, and there are letters there that are against. There are letters there that are by the neighbors that are for it, and there are letters there by the neighbors that are against it. And And then there's a lot of neighbors, there's a lot of letters there that are not from neighbors. So I think everybody has to read. And that's why we have a public hearing and people can talk, but I don't think we can say there's a general consensus with that number of letters to there's for and against.
Okay.
There are definitely for and against, and there's a number for and there's a number against. Go ahead, Daryl.
I read all the letters and I found them pretty interesting, having been involved with each iteration of the brewery here and remembering back to the letters and the predominance of the nature of those letters back then. I was pretty surprised at some of the correspondence. So I think it's pretty important to read them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty important to read them, and I'm taking a little bit of offense, Barry. I'm not sure whether you are the background on some of the members of the public with the I Support Kent Falls Brewery. I think that's a little bit propaganda-ish. That's making me feel a little uncomfortable. But why don't I turn this over to you, Barry, and you can tell us what you think about the application. You're on mute, Barry.
Sure. So I'd first like to thank the board for the approach, I think, and organization in considering this application. 10 years ago, your commission approved a special permit for our operations, making Kent the home to Connecticut's first farm brewery. At the time of the approval in 2013, there were only 14 breweries in Connecticut, none of which were part of a farm. 2 years later, when the discussion of our special permit for tastings 4315 SP took place, the number of Connecticut breweries in the state had risen to 24, and our brewery was still the only one on a farm. We are extremely proud of the fact that we're Connecticut's first farm brewery and located in Kent, and our commitment to and shared vision of supporting Kent farmland and reconnecting beer and agriculture permeates our entire operation. To my knowledge, we're the first brewery in the state who has used grains grown in Connecticut for their beer. All of our beers are made with 100% locally grown grains. Later this year, we'll surpass 1 million pounds of local grains grown in the Northeast, used in the last 8 years. We're one of, if not the biggest customer for Connecticut's largest hop farm and Connecticut's only barley and malting house. We are a founding member of the Northeast Grain Shed Alliance, an organization devoted to developing the infrastructure and awareness around small grains in the Northeast. We've raised pigs, chickens, sheep, ducks, turkeys for both eggs, meat, and pasture management on our farm. Our opening paved the way for 7 other farm breweries in Connecticut to be in existence. There's no definition of a farm brewery tasting room in our permit. Much of the discussion, much of what is in the permit is from testimony. And today, I think there's a very clear definition or example of what a Connecticut farm brewery's tasting room looks like. We have filed this application to ask 4315 SP to be updated and in line with the permitted use and common operations of the 7 other Connecticut farm breweries. At the last meeting, there was a question about whether full pours of beer would make our tasting room a bar. There are legal distinctions between a brewery and a bar, and we are not requesting any activity specific to a restaurant liquor or craft cafe permit. The size of a pour or a container of packaged beer for offsite consumption does not change the use of our space as a Connecticut brewery. It simply falls in line with customer preferences and common items sold at other farm breweries. While we cannot control what is common at other farm breweries in Connecticut or expected by a customer, we can control the manner in which we meet what they are looking for. We have always run a respectful, community-focused, and family-friendly business with limited production volumes and retail hours. I would like to share an operational comparison of our tasting room to other Connecticut breweries and farm breweries to help ease the concerns about the manner in which we operate. Of the 8 farm breweries and 114 breweries in the state, we are currently the only one that has a restriction on pour size. We are open 5 hours a day, 4 days a week for a total of 20 hours. 67% of Connecticut breweries are open 5 days or more. Our latest closing time is 7 p.m. on Thursdays and Fridays. 95% of Connecticut breweries closed after 7 p.m., with over 70% closing between 9 and 10. The vast majority of our business and any cars coming in or noise being made occurs in a 2 to 2.5 hour period in the middle of those hours. The only alcohol we are permitted or asking to serve is beer brewed on our farm. 71% of Connecticut breweries have a secondary license, which allows them to serve other beer, wine, cider, mead, or craft cocktails and spirits. 75% of the Connecticut farm breweries carry a second license for this purpose as well. We have never, up until this application, had a complaint filed against our brewery. At the onset of COVID, we were the first brewery to shut our tasting room, and we were the last to reopen. In fact, the experience of the last 3 years is one of the major reasons we have asked for an outdoor tasting area on the farm. We hope customers and community members will be able to safely enjoy our beer and agricultural setting in the beautiful open space our farm provides. Welcoming people to our brewery for family-friendly and community-centered events should calm the concerns of overuse as a bar, not worsen them. We exhibit and promote local artists. We give regular, family-friendly, free tours of our farm and brewery. We host community organizations, holiday-themed gatherings like a Halloween costume contest for families, knitting clubs, agricultural groups at the brewery. These are just some of the events that we are speaking of. Live music with minimal amplification, classes, lectures, panels, walking paths along the property, a way to celebrate and promote local vendors at our potential farm store, and certainly a farmer's market if there is a regulatory path to it, are future examples of experiences that I think would distinguish us very clearly from a bar. In surveying events and entertainment allowed at other farm breweries, I could find little way of restrictions. Most advertise live music and food trucks on a regular basis. One is approval for 6 tented festivals per year, others weddings, and so on. We're not applying for those. Trivia is a perfect example of why I asked for community-centered and family-friendly events and entertainment and didn't provide a short list, because I'm well aware if something is not mentioned, it is not allowed. We don't intend to run bar trivia, but if the Kent Historical Society says, can we run a Kent historical trivia fundraiser, I would love to be able to say yes without a public hearing. The manner and content of what we do is a major differentiation, and I think one of the things that is important to look at in deciding to, or I hope you look at in deciding tonight. These events are predominantly indoor and occur during regular hours, limiting the impact on any neighbors. That's the majority of what I appreciate you giving me the time to explain our requests, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
John or David, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, nice to see you all again.
Hey, David.
Greetings from Iowa. I may be here temporarily for work, but I have put down some roots in Kent. I do hope to be back. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges in managing a property out there, and while what Kent Hall is beautiful, the tasting room is a big part of that for me. I guess just maybe a few quick things. I would say I'm kind of sad to hear or read some of the things my neighbors wrote. I thought I was on good terms with, and I really tried hard to be a good neighbor and be thoughtful and respectful about what we were doing. When I moved there, it took a while to learn about the neighborhood. When we thought about bringing the tasting room in, we were concerned about noise and we were concerned about impact. But as I spent some time there, I realized that it's not exactly quiet and peaceful all the time. There's snowmobiles, ATVs, fireworks. There's guns going off all the time on the weekends at one property. There's heavy trucks sometimes. The country club makes a lot of noise. There's quite a few times I've been out, quietly at 8 or 9 o'clock at night trying to enjoy the serenity, and I hear the whatever noise is coming from Lake Warma Country Club for whatever event they're happening. Part of the reason that we wanted to keep the brewery facility small and the hours short is because I didn't want to be having that kind of impact on my neighbors. We're not trying to be a factory, and we're definitely not trying to be a bar. If you've been there, you can appreciate that it's small. The scale is very manageable. It's inside of a small barn. If you've been to another brewery, you can see how large and impactful they can be, and it's just not something we were trying to do. So trying to limit the hours in particular, making sure that the weekend mornings are free. There's not much traffic except for the 2 or 3 hours on one of the, if it's super nice out, but the rest of the time things are pretty quiet. I appreciate maybe more than most the challenge you have trying to balance the desires of neighbors and how they impact each other. Obviously it's a challenge. You want to maintain the character of the town at the same time the needs of the community, and those needs can be they can impact each other. You have to understand that. Obviously we are trying to be as considerate as we can, but we seek to build a viable business while we respectfully limit the traffic and hours to that very minimal time window. I guess the last thing I would say is, we provide a lot of support for local farming and agriculture, and I think the community at large. And I read all the letters. I understand some of the concerns that the neighbors have, and I definitely want to do our best to address those. A lot of people are also very supporting of what we're trying to do, and I appreciate that as well. The POCD that we all worked on, talks a lot about encouraging agriculture and agricultural adjacent uses. It encourages reasonable tourism. And it ultimately looks at trying to encourage families to come in and jobs that are appropriate for the community as well. I would say I'm very proud of the fact that we do provide employment, and of some of the people that work there, 4 families have chosen to live in Kent. And those are people that probably wouldn't be living in Kent if it weren't for the brewery. So for me personally, I find that is that's nice that we're able to provide that support, and that we see young families being there, and we're part of that process. So those are probably the main things. I thank you for your time, and again, I appreciate very much how difficult the job you're doing is, and as always, thank you for your support.
Okay, thanks, David. Is there anything that anybody on the commission would like to? Oh, I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
That's all right. If you don't mind, just as one of the owners of Kent Falls, I'd love to jump in. I can paraphrase the letter that I wrote into public record, just as my input on this. But I'm the farm in the farm brewery. For the last 10 years, I've worked the 52-acre piece of land that hosts Kent Falls Brewing Company right in the middle of it. I've raised thousands of animals, grown and foraged hundreds of pounds of flowers, vegetables, hops, fruits that we have used in our beer. I've made compost, I've mowed fields, I've trained future farmers, I've pulled neighbors out of the mud, I've celebrated harvests with friends and family. I think in my heart and through my actions, I've been a steward and an advocate for this piece of property for the last decade. Thinking about some of the letters that were written in, my oldest daughter is 9 years old, and my youngest daughter is 3 years old. And when people talk about kids riding their bikes in this neighborhood, those are my kids and their friends. I don't know that I would set up my business or structure it in a way where I would endanger the lives of my own children. It's something I value. My daughter, one who actually can ride a bike now, learned how to ride on our street Monday to Friday during the summer. I'm on my path. I rent right now in Kent. I live at 45 camps right next to the brewery, but I'm on a path to buy the property that I live in, which is a big goal of mine. I would like to be here for life. My wife teaches at a school locally that both of my kids go to.
I walk my dog every day on the 52 acres that we have here. I know every rock and tree and creature on this property, and I will continue to be a full-time resident going forward. I've also been a business partner and a dear friend to both David and Barry through this entire process. I was here before there was even a hole in the ground that our neighbors dug for the brewery. And irregardless of what happens today and what the board decides, whether that decision happens today or in the future, as you have a chance to read the rest of the letters, I have to face the people that wrote those things in about us, whether they are unfounded or exaggerated. I see these people when I'm riding my bicycle or taking my trash out or getting my mail. I hate that this became contentious at all. We have had a tangible impact in agriculture in the state of Connecticut and the town of Kent and in New England. And that's something I'm proud of every day. I completely support all of the information that Barry has shared and that David has shared. They're my partners, my friends. Being a business partner is the closest thing you have to being married. So I just want to, thank you all for your time and appreciate everybody showing up today for or against that we have an open venue to express our opinions. And that's it.
Okay, thanks, John. And thanks, Barry and David, for bringing us to this point. Does anybody on the commission have any preliminary questions before we invite the public to comment? Then I would look for some orderly raise your hand, or you can raise your hand on Zoom, and if you'd like to say something in support of or in opposition to the farm brewery and the application on the table, then now is and this won't be the only opportunity, but now's an opportunity. So who wants to go first? I see Bob Fapiano, and then I see Catherine's iPad too with you both, and we'll go there next. Okay, so Bob Fapiano, if you have the ability, would you put yourself on, turn your video on, and then take yourself off mute, and you have the floor.
You can hear me, yeah?
Yeah, now we can.
I'm just trying to figure out how to turn my video.
Should be right next to the mute.
There we go. That work?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just wanted to say, I've been probably a colleague of mine. I work in Washington. I live in New Preston. And for probably, I would say the past 5 years, my colleague and I go every Thursday. And the reason we go is because they have created such a great community of people that work there, and they're just so supportive. And, the last thing I want to do is go to a bar where it's loud and, people are unruly possibly. And one thing about Kent Falls Brewery is that it's always peaceful, quiet. It's a beautiful area. You sit outside and you can have, and I've seen meetings like the Audubon Society there. I think that it's really just a treasure of a place, and it's so hard to find something like that where you can really go and just enjoy nature and the environment and the people and the quiet, and there's maybe some kids running around. It's just, I can't tell you how, it's just a wonderful place. And I just really felt strongly that I should say that. And unfortunately, I didn't know we could write letters, or I would have wrote a letter. So we'll see what happens there. But that's really all I wanted to say. It's a great place. It's just wonderful.
Thank you.
And the beer is really good too.
Catherine's iPad. I see you there, and I know you were next, but you'll forgive me, I don't recognize your faces, so if you'll let us know who you are when you get off mute. And Mr. Fapiano, if you would put your hand down as we're just going forward, that would be great.
Okay.
All right, we can hear you now.
Okay. I don't want to go on too long. This will
Tell me
take
your
less
name.
than Bruce Osborne.
Okay,
I
hi,
live-
Bruce.
We're adjoining property owners to the brewery property in Kent Hollow. I find it, you know, I heard the testimony from the owners there. I find it, they don't grow anything there anymore to support the production of beer except a little bit of hops. So what has happened in the past doesn't carry on to what's actually happening there now. So there's some other things, but I'll just go ahead and, if you don't mind, read a paper or a letter that I wrote here. I am an adjoining property owner to Kent Falls Brewery. In the beginning, Mr. Birnbaum called our neighborhood together. He said, "We will not serve beer at this location. All of our deliveries will be with a small van." We now have a bar and tractor trailers hauling product in and out constantly. He has cut down most of the trees in the brewery area. The previous owner had planted these, trying to save some almost eradicated species. They were American chestnuts and a beautiful 18-inch or bigger large black walnut. I had worked hard to save the walnut during the brewery construction. I did the excavation there. And I made these folks well aware that I was opposed to this activity. But anyway, somebody had to do it. He also removed the many 80-foot tall pine trees along with other species in the front yard area. It appears no consideration was given to the fact that this action would put all their activity, noise, and excessive nighttime lighting right in our faces. On another note, is this really a farm brewery? If I grow a few tomato plants, does this allow me to construct a tomato juice factory on my property? Should it allow me to open a bar and serve Bloody Marys? Most of their hops growing structures have been removed. As it stands now, their hop yard might produce enough hops to make one batch of beer, closest I can tell, I'm not an expert. Mr. Birnbaum told me they found soil conditions, etc., weren't good enough to grow hops there to supply the brewery. The United States Department of Agriculture does not list Connecticut as a state that produces barley. We are in the wrong growing zone. There is minimal production of barley and other grains to produce beer grown in Connecticut. To make 75,000 gallons of beer, it takes approximately 3,750 bushels of barley and multiple tons of hops, depending on the desired end product. I'm not an expert, once again, but these average amounts are readily available online. I seriously doubt that Kent Falls Brewing is sourcing the necessary supplies in Connecticut to be considered a farm brewery, according to the regulations. They certainly aren't producing them on their own farm. Maybe this is why we don't see the Connecticut Grown logo on their products or website. Once again, is this really a farm brewery? If not, their existence is violating zoning and inland wetland regulations. Kent Falls Brewery sells beer in multiple states and online. I seriously doubt it is necessary for their survival to have a bar and special events in our residential neighborhood. Why not have their special events on the land trust property south of town or other non-residential places? This could attract people to all the in-town businesses. I wonder, would food trucks be allowed there? Their past special events have had the police called to our neighborhood at least twice. We have come down our driveway and had attendees of the events parked in our driveway vomiting out of the car. We have had encounters with drunk patrons of their events refusing to get out of the road, providing us with obscene gestures and language. We have had visitors from the brewery walking and driving up our road, which is clearly marked as a private dead-end road. I understand you are receiving letters of support for the brewery. Are they local people? Do they pay taxes here? Do they own houses here? Would they want this in their neighborhood, especially as they get older and want to enjoy their property in peace and quiet? I ask the board members to question whether the brewery deserves any more special permits. They have displayed contempt and disregard for the Planning and Zoning Commission by not following the permitted operating guidelines so far. They certainly cannot claim innocence due to ignorance of the regulations, since Mr. Birnbaum was on the P&Z Commission. As you probably know, he has moved away and left all this for us to live with. I once again applaud the P&Z Commission members for volunteering their time. Please ask yourselves the question, would I want this next to or behind my house forever? I honestly hope the answer causes you to turn down any more expansion of the brewery and bar activities. Other than the business district in Kent, please help keep our town rural, beautiful, and peaceful. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to I would like to keep going with the public comments, and would suggest that the applicants maybe keep track of what they would like to rebut, and then they can still have another chance to speak. But I'd like to continue along with the public comments, and I've got Craig Bibb, who's next on my list. And Karen, I see your hand up. I've got Bob MC and Mason Lord to go up next, and then we'll put you in the queue after them. Okay, Craig, you're up.
Okay, so I've lived in the neighborhood for 28 years, and Kent Falls Brewing has been open for 8. And I would say I think Kent Falls Brewing is the greatest thing that's ever happened at Kent Hollow. It's a community meeting spot. Bob, who maybe is going to ask the next question, I met him there. I've met more neighbors there than I've met anywhere else in Kent, and then see them regularly during what are pretty limited hours at the brewery. And I've actually had conversations with Barry about, like, why don't you guys do more? And they seem to be prioritizing being respectful of what the neighbors want and keeping it quiet. I've never seen people getting out of hand. I drive up and down the road 2 to 4 times a day, and not seeing speeding or anybody behaving in any way that looks dangerous. And then, as a Kent resident, and sometimes involved in some of the political things that go on here, I'm concerned for our town. Our Kent Falls schools, the number of students there is declining precipitously. The number of jobs in our town has been stagnant for 40 years. And we need to find things that attract people to want to visit and live in the town of Kent. And anything we can do to help keep our town viable and growing, or start it to grow again, is important. When you look at the employees of Kent Falls Brewing, they're likely to have children, and we need kids out of school, and we need jobs. And so it's fantastic for the town of Kent, and they're a wonderful neighbor. It would be a disaster if they had to move somewhere because they couldn't just operate a normal tasting room at a brewery. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Craig. And as you go, would you put your hand down so we can keep track of who's speaking? And Bob MC, I don't recognize your face, so if you'd let us know your first and last name.
Sure, it's Bob McCarron. I am on Kent Hollow Road. To answer a couple questions, I I do live in the neighborhood. I do own a house. I do, I own the house I live in. Do have children in the local schools. Craig's right. I've met him at a Kent Falls Brewery event. I see that he has a New York Yankees sweatshirt on. That's a little disturbing as a native Bostonian, so I'm going to question friendship. But a couple things. I get the whole safety thing and I'm right around the corner. I've never noticed an increase in traffic. My kids do the bike, do the run. We have a loop that goes by the brewery that we call the brewery loop. So I certainly would not be in favor of something if I felt they were in danger. A lot of what Craig said, I wrote in one of the, I was one of the ones that sent the letter in. In not just in our area, but all throughout Connecticut, we often hear things about, we want families to stay or families to relocate to Connecticut. We want high school and college graduates to stay. We got to give them a reason to stay. This is a great reason to stay. And as far as, kind of we could just shut down the tasting room and they could still sell their beer. I would say just from an affinity perspective, I mean, I like the beer, it's great. But there's a lot of great beer out there. The reason I have an affinity to the brewery is the people that work there, the people that run it, who I didn't know from Adam before I started going there. And they're very nice. They seem to be very respectful. And a lot of the conversations I've had with them, they take my concerns as a neighbor. They take other neighbors' concerns very seriously. But I just think they do it. I think they do it right. And it would be a shame to see them, have to I know you don't just pick up 52 acres and go somewhere, but it would be a shame to have them think that they needed to leave, find another community. Let's send a message to businesses. Hey, this is a great place to, open a business, grow a business, be part of the community. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Mason Lord, you're up next. And that's, I assume that's your name. That's who you are.
Yes, Mason Lord. I live in Sharon, but I have a business for the last 4 years in Kent, Hudson Valley Preservation. And for the last year, once a month, we've been having meetings at the Kent Falls Brewery. It is a building science group. So we get together and we talk about building science. It's called BS and Beer. And echoing Bob Fabiano's comments about the community, we have brought people from Kent and around because it's a fun thing to do. And the Kent Falls Brewery is beautiful. It's a great facility for us to do this. And, the BS and Beer is not just a Kent, Litchfield County thing. It's actually a national group that people who are geeks that get into building science get together and talk about it. So it would be a shame for us to lose the opportunity to be able to gather there. And I just want to add that we're always out of there by 7 p.m., as I believe the special permit says, and we're often gone by 7 p.m. without a problem.
Okay, thanks, Mason. Karen, you are up, and you'll have to tell us your first and last name once you come off mute.
I'm Karen Tomeno, Iannucci. My property abuts the brewery. I'm on Tamshell Drive. I have quite a few concerns. The first one is the smell. I cannot stay out on my deck in the summer and spring at night, sometimes the fall, because of the mash that's spread out back. It smells. I even have to shut the windows. Thankfully, I was able to put air conditioning in, so the summer wasn't as hot as it usually is. That's a big concern of mine, is the smell. I also am concerned, I know everybody's been talking about going to Kent Brewery and getting together and seeing your neighbors and stuff. To me, that's a bar. That's not a place where you're going to sample beers and buy canned beers and bottles, which I don't even know where they are bottled, but anyway, and with these, I voiced a concern when the brewery first was going in about the smell. And I went to this big meeting we had at town hall, and I raised my hand and I said, I'm really worried about the smell. Maybe this should be put in a commercial zone, not a residential zone with a small little road. And someone in Park and Rec, in planning and zoning, maybe you're still on planning and zoning. I can't remember who you were. I wish I could, but said out loud, oh no, we couldn't have it in town. The smell wouldn't be good for businesses. And my mouth just dropped because I was like, but it's okay for me to not be able to go outside, use the deck at night, or when the mash is being poured. I've also had a mouse problem recently. I've had some water issues also. And like I stated before, this is a business, and perhaps it should be placed in a business section in town, or perhaps they should open up a bar in the town of Kent. It's not that I don't enjoy having the neighbors there. And I know you're saying about children. I'm not sure how many children actually go to Kent Center School. Some go to Washington Montessori or other schools in the area. And many people are saying they love going to the brewery. I understand that, but this is in my backyard. This is, to have events, to have more room to drink, not just taste. And I even noticed that of recently, the barrels where people stand around and drink have extended now to almost the road. And that wasn't the case before. And also many of I was unaware, and I said this at the selectmen, that we never get notices of when applications are being made, or I don't read the Waterbury Republican because I don't live in Waterbury, but this was the first time a sign was put out in front of the brewery for an application. And I did notice that this week I got an email that said, now I can download all the information that you've received too, that we can now download it. So there was information in there about different kinds of, I don't know what you call it, changes to be made that I didn't even know about. And I'm the neighbor. And I'm a nice neighbor. And as far as walking on Camps Road, I did a lot of walking. I had Achilles tendon reattachment, so my walking has not occurred as of late, but it's a small road and cars go pretty fast. And since they've now paved the part up in New Preston, there's even more traffic. And you watch, and a lot of it goes into the brewery, which is good for the brewery, but it's a lot of traffic. And it attracts the mash attracts bears and mice and rodents, and it's like a smorgasbord of, according to the people I talked to in the state. So I guess that's my concern, and no one from the brewery has ever talked to me about it or come in to my house and said, this is what we're doing. I've gone up there to make some complaints, but I'm just like, oh yeah. And so that's it. I'm sorry. I'm so emotional. I'm sorry.
Thank you for your comments, Karen. Daniel Frisch, I assume that's your name too, and you're up.
Good evening. Hi, I think I've unmuted now, and I apologize for the bad background. I am going to start, and I'll close with the same thing with saying thank you to the commission. It's selfless, it's a long evening, and it's pretty fantastic what you all do for the town. I am a Kent Hollow resident. I'm on the other side of the hollow, and I think I have the fastest road known to man because it's a straight downhill when you get to our end of the hollow right before you turn on Kent Hollow to go back towards Beardsley and go back towards the brewery. So I'm pretty familiar with the idea of not wanting traffic with 2 young kids. And we live in terror that somebody's going to come too fast. So we understand neighbor complaints on traffic. We also have some cows that live on our pasture. And luckily they're not dairy cows, but dairy cows stink. And so you go up to Vermont and you think, isn't this a wonderful place to live? And you live near a dairy farm and it's not so wonderful to be there. When you mix rural and residential, it's a complicated symbiosis. And I think that's a tough thing for any community to deal with. I think the priority in Kent Hollow is the idea that it's rural. We've done everything we can do to maintain the relationship with the local farmers who sold us our land, who are there every day working on stone walls and managing the cows and the herd and doing the Kent Land Trust and Conservation. And I applaud what the brewery's doing in both community, in business, and in being a part of that rural community and then part of that agrarian community. I think that is the overarching sense of the Hollow is rural. And I hope that we have fewer opportunities to build with greater density. I know current zoning has you know, a large acreage requirement when we deal with this. And I think it's a shame that we have to have commercial and residential and rural all interact. And I won't read the letter that I wrote. It's as long as Bruce's, and it's as opinionated. But I really applaud what's going on in the Hollow, and I like the brewery being there. It is a destination for many of us. It is a destination for people from other communities. It is a distinguishing element of Connecticut farm production. And I also believe that they should be held to the highest standards of working well with their neighbors. So if it's a stench-ridden complaint, let's figure out how we deal with that better. And let's work together to do that. But I think the idea of having more there is so much better than less. And I think it's a wonderful asset to have in the community. And I think that will be the overarching community assessment, at which point we should focus our energy on how can we make the immediate neighbors feel better about having this wonderful community asset in their midst. So that's all I have. And I will close with again saying thank you to the neighbors who stand up and say, hey, take better care of us, and to the commission for spending all of their time doing this. So thank you all very much. My letter stands in the record. I will not read it out loud because it would take way too long, but thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, Marie O'Brien, you are up, and I assume that is who you are.
Yes, I am Marie O'Brien. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. I live on Tamshell Drive. I am right behind. If I was on my deck, I can throw a baseball into the farm. This is not a large farm. This is in the middle of our neighborhood. What I'm concerned about is I don't feel that they stayed to what the original approvals were 10 years ago. And they're asking, and this is what I think I want to stress, is they're asking for more. This is not a commercial area. It's just not. It was supposed to be a farm to table. That is not. There's not farm activity that I can see going on, particularly for the brewery. We're having a lot of traffic, and I'm very concerned that they want to increase this by having multiple outdoor events, food options. If you want a brewery put it in the middle of a huge farm, like Angevines or Averill's farm. If you want a brewery, put it in the center of town as a commercial and retail spot. This is in the middle of our neighborhood. And that's all I want to say is I'm concerned because a lot of what they started out with, they changed and grew. It was never on Sunday. It is now on Sunday. It was just supposed to be a small tasting room. That is not what's going on. And it was supposed to be products that were raised on that farm going into the manufacturing of their beer. And that is not what's going on there. And that's what I want to say is that I'm concerned. I do not want to see them grow their business to include more than what they're already doing. Thank you for your time. And I'm on 8 Tamshell Drive. I'm right behind them.
Okay, thank you
Good
very
night.
much, Marie.
Thank you.
I see Martha. Am I saying that right? Martha Ryerson? You're on mute.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Tell me your name though first before you start, and then we'll go on.
It's Martha Ryerson.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, neighbors. Hello. Let's see. I'm really.
No.
Oh,
can't hear.
Martha, you inadvertently put yourself on mute again. I think inadvertently.
Okay, I'm not touching I'm on my phone, so we'll,
Good.
Are we good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so I just wanted to quickly address a few of the things that I've heard tonight. I also have submitted a letter, so I guess I invite everyone to read that if they so choose. I live with my partner, Tristan Ridlon, directly across from the brewery. We're right behind their pond. So we're super close. And we moved here in 2019. So we've been here for over 3 years now. And I would like to say that we have never witnessed police activity at the brewery. We've never seen people vomiting in the street, yelling obscenities or any such thing on Camps Road or on Sugarloaf. Not to say that might have happened in the past. We've never witnessed it since we've lived here for the past 3 years. So maybe the brewery has matured. I don't know. Let's see. Also, fast cars. There are fast cars in the neighborhood. They drive on camps all the time. I would suggest that they're probably mostly locals. People going to the brewery are slowing down as they come down the hill and up the road to find the brewery. They drive in slowly, they drive out slowly. I see it all the time. And I would, let's see. I guess the last thing I'd like to say is to people who continually paint the brewery as being a bar. I really just wish that you would go and visit the brewery and see for yourselves really what's going on there, because it is a very welcoming place. It is extremely communal. It is definitely a benefit to this town and our community. And I also would love to urge you all to talk to Barry directly or David. There are things that can be done about the smell, I think, but maybe talk to Barry about that directly. Again, revisit it if you already have, because it's not pleasant for anyone to have to smell bad things, but it is a farm nonetheless, and anything could be over there. Pigs, cows, whatever. That's really it. We love where we live. We love Kent. We love our neighborhood. That's my dog dreaming. And we love the brewery, and we also love all of our neighbors. So that's all I have to say. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Martha.
Okay,
I don't see any other hands up or people looking to speak. Yes, so I see Catherine's iPad again. If you would keep this short, and you've had a chance to speak, and I just like a couple of minutes, because I'd like to give the applicant the opportunity to respond to some of the things that have been said. So you're up. And identify yourself again, just for the record, please.
You talking to me?
Okay, I'm
No.
sorry.
Okay.
I really wish our town hall meeting room would reopen so we don't have to do this Zoom business. Anyway, these things that happened with having to call the police, people on the road, people in our driveway vomiting, these happened when they were having bigger events at the brewery. This is what they're asking to do again, I believe. So this is what we do not want to see again, especially on a regular basis. And as far as the traffic, well, when summertime gets here, the more this place is allowed to act as a bar, serving more than the 4 2-ounce servings, I think it's going to attract more and more people, more motorcycles with loud exhaust, which I ride a motorcycle. You don't hear mine like that. This is the kind of noise we don't want in our neighborhood. Yeah, I think it's great that it's can be a small community gathering place like this. I welcome that anywheres, but all this expansion of activity that they're asking for, I really can't go along with. I'll cut it at that. What, you want to say something?
Festivals and food trucks. I mean, that's.
I'm sorry,
huge.
could you identify yourself too, please, ma'am?
Catherine Osborne.
Great, thanks, Catherine.
To have festivals and food trucks, there's no limit to what the festivals would be. It was so open the way it was put out there. I mean, do we really want that? Festivals and food trucks here?
How big are they going to be allowed to be? How long would they last? Not to keep on with that. As far as the smell and with the neighbors, I find it kind of disgusting that they chose to create their dump site right on the property line of the neighbors of Tamshell. Why don't they dump it over where John lives, the farmer and some of the other people, if they're so considerate? Let them smell their own produce instead of the neighbors.
Okay.
Who were there before the
There's a
brewery.
couple of other people who want to speak. So I'm
Okay,
gonna give
yeah,
them
that's
the
it.
floor.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Good night.
So I see Dorothy Gale maybe, and then Dave Seegers. So Dorothy, if you come off mute and let us know who you are.
Right, or?
There you go. That looks right.
Okay. I want to thank everyone for their opinions and their comments and everything else. The only thing I want to say is, please read my letter, which I expressed how I feel, and I can't express it any more than I did in that letter. Again, thank you everyone for expressing their opinions, but I really want our opinion, my opinion, to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy, and I promise I'll commit to you that everyone on the commission.
Yes, I would really, there was talk before that you got like 35 letters or, whatever, but I really feel that all of the letters need to be heard, because this is our opinion, this is our feelings. So, and we took the time to write it, and we really need for it to be expressed. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll commit that to you, Dorothy.
Thank you.
Okay, Dave Seegers, and I suspect that that's you as well.
That is me. Hi, yeah, I'm Dave Seegers. I'm business partners with Mason Lord and Hudson Valley Preservation. Our business is in Kent. And again, when we approached Barry to do this, which is really an educational thing for builders and homeowners, he was very open to it. And we actually started it prior to COVID briefly, and then have been shut down. And what I've noticed there is I do hear a lot of this being called a bar, and I've spent some time in bars in the past. This is not a bar. This is a tasting room. And what we've encountered are many other neighbors who were interested in homes and have just become a part of our monthly meeting. And it's been really a great friend group to meet with people and discuss things. So, you know, and then we see the artwork that they have displayed in there. And to me, it is a sense of community that these guys bring and they promote. I definitely endorse them.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Dave. So I'm gonna turn this back over to the applicant. I would ask Barry and John and David, I want to give the opportunity to the commission to ask some questions of information that they might want to view, because I suspect we're getting towards the point where we're going to want to continue the public hearing, but I want to give you guys the opportunity to respond to some of the comments that have been made. But if you wouldn't mind keeping your comments brief, I want to give you the time to speak, but that's just my request. So go ahead, Barry.
It's good to hear from neighbors for and that have concerns. One of the things in the many times I've been in town hall recently, kind of trying to get all this straightened out, that I said to Ty was, you know, I've never stood in any of our neighbors' backyards to say what they smell, what they don't smell. You know, that's a totally fair concern that I am open to. And, you know, I certainly want a better relationship with all of the neighbors. I'm a pretty receptive person. I think most people who know me would say that. And if people reach out and say, hey, can we talk about this? I'm more than willing to talk about it. I actually reached out to some of the people who wrote letters saying better relationships probably start with me listening. So I'm here, and I didn't hear anything back, which was unfortunate. You know, in terms of the festivals, which is a fair question, I didn't request festivals. I said outdoor events. We have received approval for our Hop Harvest Festival, which it would be something similar. You know, if people are too concerned about it, it doesn't need to be 4, you know. I picked one for each season, right? And similar to the Hop Harvest Festival, where we had to come to you and say what it was, my assumption was we would have to come to you and get a regulatory sign off from the health department and every other person involved, every other agency involved, just like we do the Hop Harvest Festival. So I didn't say, because we don't have some grand scheme to say, we're gonna ask for 4 festivals and, you know, make this a whole scene. This is a very difficult process, which again, like, thank you for your organization and, you know, manner in which this is approached. I get it. I don't want to have to go through this again. So I picked one event outdoors for each season, because put it in there if you want it. And it doesn't look better if every year I come back asking for another season's event. So I put it in there, you know, and we can talk about it. And, you know, as far as the specific concerns about spent grain, the mash is not spread along the Tamshell property line. It's kind of in the center of the property where we've been composting it. And we've been actively, for the last 3+ months, giving it to a cattle farmer who takes it off the farm every week. So there's no addition to the compost pile where the spent grain is. I've been talking with different companies about ways to mitigate other elements of our waste that don't have to be pumped out or go into the holding tanks. There's a bioreactor in Connecticut now that is really interested in taking our hop slurry to create clean energy, something I'm very eager of. They're also interested in possibly taking what is remaining of the compost pile. I'm not going to put any I'm interested in the farm smelling great because I have customers who come. It doesn't make sense that we would want a farm to smell bad and have people come visit and enjoy their time there. So we share that. I want everybody to know we share that interest, and I had a conversation with a neighbor about food trucks. They said, I have one concern about it. And I know this meeting is not about food trucks. And they pointed something out that was fantastic. They said food trucks have loud motors, right? Or generators. Would you be able to figure out a way to let them plug in someplace? We have solar panels all over our farm. Absolutely. That would only benefit everybody. That comes out of conversation with people rather than, and I'm here for that. Right. So I will slow down a little bit. There's a lot of concerns. I don't want to sit here and debate the validity of barley being grown in Connecticut. 60% of our grain comes from Windsor. Thrall Family Malt is one of the oldest family run farms in America since, I believe, 1635. And malting barley replaced the barley they grew as a cover crop for tobacco. So as tobacco crops have decreased, and their farm has needed to find out a way to give their future generations an ability to keep the land in agriculture and not sold to an Amazon warehouse, right? They've started growing malting barley, and they turned a warehouse into a malting facility instead of a shipping center for tobacco. And it means a lot that, Kent Hollow is wetlands, right? There's a lot of it. It's really tough to grow scale of anything, right? So without being cute and saying, so it means a lot, not only that our farm keeps our farm a farm, but we keep other farms and way older farms than ours, I think. I don't know for sure, but that's a meaningful process that we're a part of, and that the permits you gave to us to establish a farm brewery are an immense part of, right? Other farm breweries who are now using local grains, inspiring other breweries who aren't on farms to use local grains. The average, I love this fact. I put a 2x2 square in the tasting room to try and engage people in this idea. It turned out to make them think that's where they had to stand to order a beer to go or whatnot. So it is a little confusing. The average can of beer that we make has 4 square feet of barley in it. So for a 100-acre farm, that's 1 million cans of beer that one farm of 100 acres needs to harvest and sell and have consumed to be able to do it again. And our farm, we're able to support 55 acres of barley a year, right? It's not that big. And that's only producing 72,000 gallons of the 155 that were permitted, right? And there's a letter from the barley grower saying he's increased his acreage in a large part due to us. I'm sorry if I am a little emotional in this, but we didn't go through a year and a half of creating a special permit and then having to build a brewery on a farm that doesn't have the power, we had to figure all this stuff out for wastewater application permits, right? And we did it, and you saw it and approved it. And, we don't do that to run a factory, to run a bar. I think our intentions are really misunderstood, as is the impact. I'll let the community speak for the community, but on actually building a supply chain of local farms in this area that doesn't exist. It doesn't. If you allow 2 more seconds, I'll end there. But that, I think, responds, we can talk about traffic and we can talk about all those things, but you know, if the question is our intention, I can make wildly clear what our intention is.
Okay, I see. I know you're passionate. And it's going to be important for us as we move forward to be talking about just those things, you know, traffic, trucks, hours of operation, all of the things that come along with the special permit that we are interested in. Tonight has been, it's been fact finding and trying to understand what everybody's thoughts are and feelings are. And I know that this is going to continue. And I appreciate your passion. John, is there anything that you want to say? And David, is there anything you want to say? And I'd like to keep this to maybe responding to comments from the public that you would like to rebut, or refute is probably the wrong way. Something that you'd like to address. So John, yeah, I see you're off mute.
Sure. I think I'll take the farm and agricultural stuff. I'll let David take the land and the trees aspect of this. So this is a wet property. Traditionally, in years and decades past, it had been an organic dairy farm with cows rotationally grazed on it because 18,000 years ago, Glacier came through and gave all our good topsoil to Southern Connecticut. Thank you, Glacier. So now we have glacial tilth, which we're now a Brita filter for the upper Aspetuck River watershed. So it's a wet piece of property. Lends itself to rotational livestock. As part of my rotational livestock, I raise pigs, several dozen pigs a year. Several dozen pigs put a lot of byproduct out the backside, and in the middle of August, that smell is really bad. But because I'm right in it, like really, it gets into the dead skin in your fingers, and then you absentmindedly pick your nose, and that's pig excrement for the next couple of days. We're scaling back on pigs because we can't put them in beer. But my livestock, which this has been a livestock farm, and farms smell, my livestock smell because they poop. I rotate my livestock. I don't run a concentrated animal feeding operation. I run a rotational land management operation where I run them around the farm. So that's livestock, and livestock adds to the smell of the place. It's part of our character, for better or worse. As for the brewer's grain, Barry was actually inaccurate in one of his statements that we've been sending grain out for the last 3 months. We've been sending grain out for the last 3 years, and I have the farmers that I can attest to that. We don't dump all of our grains anywhere near a property line, and thank you for mentioning that, Bruce. We dump it in the middle of the farm because I compost some of it to add it with wood chips and turn it into rich compost, which I then spread into our hop yard. And the rest of it goes out to cattle farms outside of this property. So it's actually leaves this property, and 100% of our grain for almost the last year has left this property with some residual maintaining for my own compost piles for how I'm managing that. We'll get better at managing it. No one wants the smell. I do live right here. I raise my kids here. I'm here all the time. I'm closer to that pile than anyone on this phone call every single day. So the smell is being taken care of. There are going to be less pigs going forward. I'll let David talk to the trees and land clearing, but I have very strong opinions on that. And the last thing that I will add is that Spencer Thrall, who is one of the barley suppliers between Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New York, where 60% of our grain comes from Connecticut, has expanded his production, and this says in his public record letter, from 50 acres to 600 acres, due in large part because of the consistency that we have provided with using his grain in our product for the last 4+ years. So I'm very proud of that. So I've been a steward of the land. I know this land very intimately. I'm an environmentalist. I want to save the world. I want to save the environment. The best way to save the environment is to put people in it, in a conducive atmosphere where they can experience it. We have a beautiful place. that doesn't smell, that maintains the character, and is the farm that I always dreamed of before I got into agriculture, and is the farm that I've developed over the last 10 years.
Matt, you're muted.
Thanks, David. So thanks, John, and David, you're up.
All right, I'll be quick. Just a few things. It broke my heart to cut those trees down. One of them was planted in a septic field. The others had various forms of black rot and fungus. They unfortunately had to come down. One of them came down because of the big solar array that went up. I plant between 15 and 20 native trees every year because I'm trying to bring them back. I agree. We need more trees, and I'm trying to do 100% native and things that will hopefully survive what's happening with pests and diseases in the area. Karen, thanks for your comments about the smell. I did smell it sometimes myself, being on 29 camps. As John said, we're trying to improve how we manage it. Compost does smell sometime, and animals smell sometime as well. I will say we definitely never dump on the tam shell line because we are sensitive to our neighbors there. So everything is in the middle of the farm, and the things that are on the tam shell line are dry goods, old pipes and construction materials. If you find that's not the case, please address it with me directly. I agree on loud motorcycles. They come by not just to go to the brewery, they just come by because they're cruising around Kent. And a speed bump would be great if someone wants to convince the town of Kent to put one in, because there are a lot of people who drive fast, and they seem to be the people not going to the brewery. As someone who ran that road on a regular basis, people would speed by me. And it was generally, I agree, it was uncomfortable, but they definitely weren't brewery visitors. I guess the only other note, I know the police have, the police have been there a couple times. And we've had 2 patrons that had medical issues, and they came by the police came and took care of it. They had nothing to do with drinking. They were in separate medical issues. I think that happens with anyone who runs any sort of facility. We did have one police visit. Somebody called in and said we were promoting underage drinking. The police investigated, and as did the state of Connecticut, and then we were exonerated. Our facility had taken care of it properly. It was a false alarm. So we're not entirely sure who made that call, but as far as I know, there's only 3 law enforcement issues that I'm aware of as the owner. So I'll leave it at that. Again, thank you for everyone airing their concerns. I understand, people do want to enjoy the peace and tranquility as much as they can, and hopefully we can, regardless of what happens at the outcome of this, we'll do our best to improve the impact that we're having on the neighborhood.
All right, thanks, David. Barry, 1 minute.
Okay, I just wanted to speak, I think real quickly to what I would say, I guess the outdoor tasting areas, the picnic area. I am, I don't want to make this more difficult than it is. And, I guess if you have questions, we'll get there. I'll retract anything I'm saying. So just leave it at that. Forget it.
I didn't mean it to get you all flustered, but
okay.
Yeah. All right, fine. So Karen, I would like to, all right, very quickly, please.
Okay, thank you, David, Barry, and I'm sorry, John. How do we get in touch with you? Because for me, it's been hit or miss if I go up there. Nobody knows, where you are. I'm sure you're working or whatever. So can you please give us, I'm right on Tam Shell, so you can just come and deliver it if you want, but how we get in touch with you, because I know you're saying there's no smell, but so if we're going to talk, we have to have a way to get in touch.
All right, so I'll leave that to I'll leave that to the neighbors to work out how they're going to communicate back and forth. And I'm understanding that one of our members has to leave. Sorry to see you go, Alice, but I suspect that we will continue the public hearing. So have a good night. And then I would like to open this discussion up to the up to the balance of the commission and simply ask, is there anything that you would like to see the applicant provide to us for the next meeting? Is there any information that you want to, I'm not saying this is the last opportunity, but this is a good opportunity to request additional information that you might want. I know we didn't get a chance to ask the applicant questions, but I think that we should consider continuing the public hearing, but let me hear your thoughts.
So there's been a few comments questioning about how much is produced on the property relative to what's going into the beer. This is a farm brewery, and under our farm brewery definition, only 20% by weight of the materials actually has to come from the farm or within 50 miles, I believe. They've given testimony about how supportive they are of local growers. Can they classify what percentage by dry weight of the materials are that are coming from those farms and from their own production?
Can we ask them to, Daryl, are you okay with asking that question for them to bring to the next meeting or sometime?
Correct. Yeah.
now and
I
then?
mean, it seems like the 20% threshold is easily being met. It would be nice to know, what percentage is coming from offsite, and that it is within 50 miles. I think that would help to alleviate some of the concerns about whether this is meeting the definition of farm brewery, and we can put that concern to rest. My other comment is, this is an agricultural operation. Some of the concerns, particularly with smells and things like that, are somewhat protected by our right to farm ordinance. So I'd like to see a separation of concerns about the farming versus the brewery application, so that, we can sort of focus on the items that we have to deal with and not items that are protected by ordinance.
Great, thanks, Daryl. Adam?
I was just going to also ask if they can, I know they're not producing as much as what the special permit allows them to, but they could tell us how much beer they produce annually. I think that it says something like 155,000 gallons, which is a lot.
Right. Barry,
And-
just get back to us with these couple of questions. So make notes of these things. I'm sure Ty is making notes of them too.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt Adam if you had something else.
No, those, I just want to address the things that are on the special permit, and so those things are clear and about what they're doing.
Okay. Wes, any questions or comments for them to bring forward?
Well, I don't have any questions, but I am going to take the opportunity to avail myself of their place between now and next meeting, because I'd like to personally experience it myself.
Karen or Chris or anything that you would like to ask or have answered?
Is there maximum seating inside the tasting room? I mean, are there any parameters like that for the property, special events?
That would be, so if you're asking the applicant to let us know how many seats they've got inside, how many seats they expect to be outside with regard to the revised regulation or the revised application, I think that would be reasonable to understand.
I'd like to hear from the brewery how they feel they can solve some of the complaints. And in particular, I know farms have smells, but if the compost or whatever you're calling it is being spread close to the neighbors, I don't know if it is or it isn't, but I don't imagine people would just make this stuff up, what their solution is and what their solution might be for the traffic. you know, maybe David's right, a speed bump would help, but I think, you know, having someone held captive in their own house because of smell is not right. And if this is going on close to the other neighbors' property lines, it should be stopped. It should be, they should come to us and say, here's what we're going to do about these following sensitive issues. And you know, I know animals on a farm, you're going to have a stench, but you know, having the kind of smell that one of the neighbors indicated she's experiencing, I think we should try to find a way to solve that. I'd like to hear what their thoughts are, you know, how they would go about solving some of these issues. You know, I wasn't on the commission when this was approved, so I'm reluctant to really jump in and start asking a lot of questions now. But I think going forward, there has to be some sort of compromise for the neighbors to be able to live happily there as well.
And Chris, any thoughts from you?
You know, just looking at this now, and the only things I see now would just like more definition on what is a farm store, what is an outdoor tasting room, what is a standard pour. I think they already sell beer in sealed containers now. Is that correct? I'm wondering why they're asking for, you know, to add this on if they're already selling beer in sealed containers. We definitely need to know what the events and the entertainment's going to be.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. So I think that for me, I think that it's that it would be good for the commission to review the 33 camps NOPV, which is the notice of possible violation _history, because that gives that sort of gives the history of the approvals that have been granted and the discussions that surrounded those approvals being granted. So as part of our process is that the testimony given during a public hearing and during a special permit application becomes part of the record. It's important for all of us to read and understand what we've approved so far as that history that Ty and Donna put together. And I think it's also important for us as the commission to look at what is being requested. You know, farm brewery, serving room, sealed container sales, outdoor area, food service, farm store, special events, and are those activities permitted by the regulation? So for me, it's a question of what's being requested and what is actually permitted and what's not permitted. And there's been a lot of talk about, you know, about the good that the brewery has done, and there's been a lot of talk about what people don't like about the brewery. But for me, what it comes down to is, are these activities permitted by the regulations? And we were careful to, when we wrote these regulations for a farm brewery, we defined a farm brewery and we defined where a farm brewery would be allowed, and we defined what a farm brewery could look like within the zone that it was allowed in, right? So we have pretty specific regulation as to what a farm brewery. It doesn't matter what the state says. It doesn't matter what other breweries are doing. It doesn't matter what's happening in New Milford or in Waterbury. It matters what our regulations allow. If we as a community decide that our regulations aren't permissive enough, then we can talk about changing the regulations. But the first thing is, are they permitted by the regulations? And so I encourage everybody to read through not only the definition that Daryl brought up of what a farm brewery is, and then go through where it's allowed and what it's allowed, where it's allowed. I mean, it's somewhat easy. And if you read through Ty's Ty's report, it sort of outlines the things that we want to look at. And this is a special permit, so we want to look at considerations of the site plan application and considerations of this site plan application. Site plan. So I'm sorry, site plan application and special permit. So 10-350, 10-440, and 10-450. And does anybody have anything to say with in response to my comments? And Barry, I know I spoke as long as you did and nobody tried to cut me off, so. I would, I think, entertain a motion, if everybody is somewhat comfortable with where we are now, to continue the public hearing to our next regular meeting. And the applicant can respond to some of the comments that were made tonight. And the commission can read through the application and the regulations and sort of get their own sense of where we want to go at our next meeting.
I'll make that motion that we continue the public hearing, keep it open for application 22-23 SP and 23-23C. Request for modification to 43-15 SP 33 Camps Road LLC, 33 Camps Road, map 17, block 28, lot 30, to allow for a farm store, outdoor tasting room, standard pour, sale of beer and sealed containers, events and entertainment.
Second.
Great. Thanks, Adam, and thanks, Daryl. Any other comments before we vote? Then I'll
I
call.
have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Annie, go ahead. Yeah.
I find that I support Kent Falls posters, backgrounds, whatever you want to call them, a little too dramatic. I think they're annoying.
Amen.
That's all.
I don't know if there's anything we can do about it, but I certainly share your sentiment. Anyway, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye. And we are a little bit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Motion carries. Okay, thank you to the applicant and thank you to the members of the public who have persevered to this point, and I apologize to the applicant who's coming up next to wait as long as they have. So with that, I'm going to move on to agenda item 6B3, which is discussion and possible decision on the application that we just heard, and I would look for a motion to table that until our next meeting.
There isn't, we don't have to do that because we didn't close the public hearing. We can't even, right? We didn't close the public hearing, so there's no consideration of this because we'd have had to close the public hearing.
I think we have to table it. Although I'd hear from Ty and Donna if we think that's proper.
Okay.
I think, yeah, tabling it would be appropriate.
So I'll make a motion that we table 6B3.
Second.
Great, thanks, y'all. All those in favor, so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye. And that motion carries. And at this point, I should have done this before, but I will do it now. I'm going to elevate Chris to voting status since we lost Alice. So we have 7 members to vote. Okay, this is application, agenda item 6B4, application number 26-23C, 77B Cedar Mountain Road, map 10, block 42, lot 49, improvements to SFH, including pool and solar array within the horizon line.
So Matt, this is where I was asking about before. So 6B4 is actually labeled 6A or in the meeting folder. I want to make that clear for the public. That's the problem. There is no 6A4, there's a 6B4. It's just mislabeled in the meeting folder, not on the agenda.
You're absolutely right, Adam. I'm sorry I misunderstood your concern at the beginning of the meeting, but thanks for bringing that back up again. You're absolutely right that the folder items for this 6B4 and the meeting folder are labeled 6A4. And that has to do with which we, Ty and I went back and forth about where they should go on the agenda. So I'll yes, that's what happened. Okay, so Ty, is there anything that you want to say about 6B4?
Yeah, it's just it was a application that just came in within the last week. It's for Horizon Line. They're looking to put in most of the property is in the Horizon Line. They're putting it in an in-ground pool, a new septic, and a solar array, and quite a bit of clear cutting for the solar array. They also reference, I didn't have a chance to talk to them. They dropped off the application when I wasn't there, but they also referenced section 5600 regarding the aquifer, but I don't really see how that applies in this case. But Mr. Johannesson is here, so maybe he can explain that a little bit better. There is a small portion of the property in the front in the aquifer, but I don't see the impact. But go ahead and explain.
Okay, you ready?
Sure.
All right, I'll try to be brief. I know everybody's tired.
Would you just identify yourself?
Yes, my name is George Johannesson from Allied Engineering Associates in North Canton, Connecticut. Here representing Sean Davis, who's the owner of the property, and Jeffrey Pavero, who is the architect managing the project. This is an existing house. Does everybody know where the property is? It's an existing house which can't really be seen from the road. They have now a stone patio behind the house. And their intention is to build, leave the patio, but incorporate that into another patio where they're building a swimming pool in the backyard. And we're putting in a new septic system off to the west of the existing patio because the existing system is directly behind the house where the swimming pool is going to go. We submitted the plans to Torrington Area Health District. Kathy has approved the septic as well as the swimming pool application. And then downhill from the septic system, their intent is to install a solar array. So the area where the swimming pool is going is all pretty much cleared now. It's just meadow, it slopes. But where the solar array is going, there is some, there are trees there, but the solar array is only 57 feet by 17 feet. It's not huge. And it is on the slope it's a pretty steep slope. So they don't need to cut a lot of trees to be able to get the access to the sun they need for the solar array. In the application, we asked for a waiver for the A2 survey because any part of this project is over 200 feet from the property line. The original survey was done by Bob Hock back in '78. It was updated and updated and updated. I think the most recent version is 1986, but it does not show the house on it. However, Gary went out and did topography for us on this, and everybody in the application process agreed that we were so far away from the property line, having the A2 survey would not show anything else of benefit. So they did not ask him to do that. The area where the house is now, there's still a significant slope up behind the house that goes to the top of the ridge. House itself is not really changing in configuration. They're just renovating the inside and doing the patio and the swimming pool in the back. So the effect of what would be visual, I think, is almost nothing. When you're up at the property, you can't even see the road. And when you're down at the road, you can't really see the property either, where the house is. So I don't see any significant impact at all comparing the ridge line or anything else. Part of the impact on the property itself is there's a temporary road we had to construct a solar array. But that's really just, we're avoiding any of the big trees that are on the property, and just creating a level access way down for the construction vehicles to get down there to install the solar array. When the array is done, that all will be seeded. I think the grade will stay the same so that if vehicles need to get in there later on to maintain any of the solar things, but it's not going to be paved or anything. It's just gravel, and it will be seeded over. But the gravel will remain so vehicles can access that at a later time. That's really all there is. I'd be happy to answer any questions. So we did ask for an exemption for the A2 boundary survey. For a landscaping plan, because it's mostly hardscape that's going in there. We have some surface drains that are going down the slope. We have energy dissipators, and those will then sheet flow across the grass and eventually get down. There's a wet area, a couple more 100 feet down there. So the landscaping is really just going to be plantings that the homeowner decides to put around that area. There's no significant plantings going in. We do not have a number of trees that would be removed for the solar. But like I said, where the swimming pool is going, that area is already clear. So there may be, just a wild guess, I'd say 5 or 6 trees that may be cut for the solar. But if you want us to investigate that more, we'd be happy to do that. Offsite information, everything is so far away from where this is going. There's no offsite anything that's going to be affected by this project. And impact analysis on water supply, storm drainage, sanitary sewers, all that stuff. It's the single family home. That's what the SFH stands for on the application. And like I said, there's just a couple of surface drains with energy dissipators for storm drainage. It's a septic system, so there's no sewers, there's no change in traffic. Stone walls are located on the survey, but you can only see a little tiny bit of it because it's a couple of 100 feet away. There's not more than any 25 dwelling units or any of that, so there's no applications for special permit. There's no variances. It's pretty cut and dry, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions anyone has.
In the solar array area, is that, are you cutting in that flat area?
No, we're filling a little bit. We're creating a 5% cross slope.
So it's filling. So how much do you propose to bring in here?
I don't have a quantity of it. At the worst case, there's about 4 feet at that lower left-hand corner. We can't cut into the grade because of the septic system. We're downhill from the septic.
Right.
We're creating the platform and then going down at a 2-on-1 slope, I believe it is.
So probably pretty significant amounts of fill.
I can quantify that for you if you want.
So is there any cut or is it all brought in?
It's going to be all brought in. It would be brought in.
So in your application, do you state the amount of cubic yardage?
Oh, we did not.
Following along that same, that same vein, if I'm reading the plan right, down below the proposed pool, which is shown on drawing C1,
Yes,
there is a flat spot as shown by the contour lines, and that flat spot appears to correspond to the sort of mowed, or I don't want to call it lawn area, but certainly the cleared area, right?
it's like a meadow. Yes, it's, yeah.
But if I follow those grades, and I'm looking at the Google Earth shot,
Mhm.
you're really talking about clearing all of that. Every place where you have to bring in fill, you're going to have to clear the trees then, right? So not
But
only
that-
for the septic
most of
field,
that-
but for the solar array.
Most of that area down there is already cleared. There are no trees. There's in the area where the septic system is. There's a few trees that would need to be cleared, and then down where the solar array is, there would be some trees cleared there, but I don't have an exact number. But like I said, if that's something you want us to quantify and give you some more accurate information on, we'd be happy.
I think that's important, the number of trees, and I think also the amount of fill you're bringing in is important.
Okay, that's fine. What we would propose in that case is we would have to get Gary Hock back out there. He would stake the corners of solar array is going, and then have the solar people come out and give us their interpretation of what trees would need to be removed, and we can show that on the plan as a specific number of trees, and then I can calculate the quantity of the fill that's going to be placed. And if there's a way to do it a little bit differently to eliminate some of the fill coming, I mean, most of the case it's not too much, but we're trying not to cut where the temporary is because there's some trees over there and we didn't want to affect the roots.
And George, that's one of the that's one of the considerations of the development in the Horizon Line Conservation District is whether there's another strategy, and as far as the development goes, to not impact the Horizon Line as much as some other strategy, right? So the way I'm looking at this is, which you probably can't see, as you said, Seeger Mountain Road from the hilltop, and you probably can't see the hilltop from Seeger Mountain Road, but you might be able to see it from further down South Kent Road. And which part of this part of the intent of the regulation is to not disturb the view shed of the people who live and can look up the hill. So is there any
I
opportunity?
understand. Believe me,
Okay.
I live next to Salisbury. I know. And there's all kinds of mountains with mansions on top of them. I understand. That's fine. We can look at that a little more in depth and see if there's. I think the key is to get the solar people to tell us how many trees they think need to be removed. And then if it seems to be excessive, we can suggest maybe we move it a little bit to, this was their ideal location as far as the receptive to the sun.
Great.
And
What would
that's-
also be helpful is maybe the satellite shot that I'm looking at now is not as current as it's not completely current, so it might be helpful for us to understand what's wooded and what's not in the areas that you're planning on doing this development.
Okay. Yep. Okay. All right.
I just had a question. Are the trees that are being removed for the solar array, is it just for the actual physical construction of the infrastructure, or is the solar company also going to be suggesting tree removal to increase the efficiency based on the location?
It's all for the efficiency of the solar. That's what I'm saying. They chose their ideal location on the site, and that's what we're showing as far as what they think is the best place to get the maximum coverage from the sun, but keeping in mind, they don't want to cut down too many trees, but there will be some. And I think by us having Gary actually stake where that is in the field and have them come out and tell us, okay, we're going to need to cut these trees. Maybe we can convince them to move it to a different location where there would be less trees.
Because in the same aerial view that I'm sure Matt's looking at, it does look like if they slide it back towards the house, they're into
Right.
more of an existing clearing. But of course, then they will have to look at it.
Exactly. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. This was the ideal plan. That's why we've submitted it this way, and we're certainly open to discussion. We can do whatever the commission feels is the most sensible way to approach this, and then give you back the answers.
Great, thank you. Taking into consideration, the disturbance for the septic and the disturbance for the solar and the disturbance for the access road. If you would sort of combine all of those into your report back to us, that would be great, George.
That's fine.
It's for the balance of the commission. It seems that the pool and the I'm going to call it an isometric view, though that's probably not the right way to call it. It's really helpful to see what the retaining walls and the terracing is going to look like, but that all seems like it's going to be within that cleared meadow area.
Oh yeah,
right? So
that's all clear. Yeah, we get into the trees when we start getting over towards the septic area, but there's a lot of ledge on the other side, so we couldn't use that. So I went out and I probed first before we even did the test pits to see where was the best place to be able to put a septic, and that was really the only area that we could get that had enough soil without going too far away. And it, as you can see on there, we're showing it's just showing a primary and a reserve, which technically we're not required to do that, but I just wanted you to see that. Because this would be considered a repair almost. But we're showing a primary and a reserve, and the reserve will not be installed at this time.
right, as usual. Okay, does anybody else on the commission have any other questions for the applicant before we maybe turn them loose to answer our questions and come back to us next month? Then I would look for a motion to table.
So I'll move to table application 2623C 77B Cedar Mountain Road until next regular meeting.
What is the date of that meeting? Do you know?
The second Thursday.
Thursday in April.
April 13th.
I'll second that.
April 13th.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anything else that the commission wants to ask of the applicant so that we can sort of streamline this for next month?
Just to follow up, if that's the only place that the septic can go and you're going to have to disturb it anyway, that could be a rationale for putting the solar panels into an area that's going to be disturbed anyway. So,
Well, that was part of the discussion, yes.
yeah.
But I understand your concern, and we'll see what we can come up with for quantifying, what trees. Maybe I can bring some photographs next time and show you. That way you'll get a little better feel for what's going on.
Thanks.
That's great, George. And we will all, we'll all drive down that road and look up the hill during the day and then at night and see what we can see too, and be prepared for next month.
All right, that sounds great. And in the meantime, if you do find an area where you can see the house that I don't know about, if you could have Ty or Donna just let us know so we could get your perspective. You know what I'm saying? You were talking about down South Kent Road somewhere. If there's an area you say, oh, wait a minute, I can see that, that way we'll know what you're looking at and make sure that that doesn't change if possible.
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks, George. So we've got a motion and a second, and I think I'm ready to call the vote. And all those in favor so signify by raising your hand and or saying aye. And that is all of us, and the motion carries.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Good night.
Night. Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, I was going to start with 407 years ago. Sure.
All right, so I have to get back to the agenda. I know that I believe that we are towards the end. I'm just about there now. So we are, that was 6B4. Staff report. Ty, anything new?
Not too much to report. I just wanted to remind you, you have to go back to 5B2 as well regarding the vacant position.
Oh, yes, thank you for that. So can we move back to that, confident that we have finished the staff report?
Yeah, I don't really have too much to report. No, I think got the gist of everything that's been going on.
Fine. And so again, Adam, thanks for, I would have forgotten about this again. So you guys are keeping me honest. 5B2, this is a regular member vacant position. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what the process should be for vetting the people who might be interested in filling this vacant seat. I know Alice has been working. Alice is someone made this her mission to try to find somebody to fill the seat, and she's got certain criteria that she wants to fill. And she's asked a bunch of people, and she's come up with a person who seems to be interested and seems to have some good credentials. But I wanted to find out from the balance of the commission how you think we should manage recommendations to fill that seat. Should it simply be somebody from the commission recommend somebody and they send the information to Ty and Ty puts it in the packet for us to all review? Do you want to set up a, I know we've got a lot going on, and we're already having, at least one special meeting a month. But it would be nice to fill the seat. Then Alice has got a candidate who seems somewhat, maybe even overqualified for the position, but seems to be interested, and she seems. So what do you think we should do? How do you think we should manage?
How long is the term, Matt?
This is to fill David's term. So David, I'll spare you the commentary. David was elected in November of 21. So he now has 5 years, five years less the couple of months between November and now. So it's 4 years and 10 months, 9 months.
Wait, he has 4 years, or he would be up this coming November?
He'd be
coming. He'd
I'm
be up.
coming up. I took Mark's seat, and Mark is coming up this November, so I'm coming up this November.
Yeah.
And then David's seat is open, and David is up. David's seat will be up.
November 16, 2027.
Thank you for the math, Ty. So it's a longer seat. They wouldn't let me take it. So what do you think? So should we just ask Alice to submit the resume to Ty and put it on the agenda for next month?
Well, I think we should discuss it and see, how we feel. I don't know if we have a criteria, but we may hear about this person and think, okay, that's a good person to take the seat. And in the meantime, maybe there will be somebody else, but right now we don't have anybody else who's interested in it.
Right. So we've got someone interested, and someone who's been recommended by a member of the commission, who's being, put forward by the members, by a member of the commission.
But in the interim, we have two very active alternates that attend well. I mean, we don't really have a huge issue, so we shouldn't feel like we have to rush this. In my view,
I agree with that too, S. Absolutely, we should be deliberative, as usual.
But we should also have 3 alternates. And we have one that's just
Right,
doesn't
that's-
come.
So,
And
so
that
that's what
keep
we have.
keep not addressing it. And I brought it up before. There's no reason to have an alternate position taken up by somebody who never, ever comes to a meeting and doesn't participate.
Yep. That's right.
It's actually such a disservice to anybody.
It is a disservice. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
would you like to ask for the resignation of the alternate, or shall we wait until we have somebody else? What's the, so let's break this into two pieces. So the first piece is that we should ask Alice, and I can do that, or Ty can do it, and ask Alice to submit the resume of the person who she has found who's willing to serve, and we can all review that next month, right? So that's the first thing for the seated position, the regular member. And then the alternate, should we ask for the resignation of the alternate, or should we look for somebody else and then ask for the resignation? And what's the pleasure?
No, I think we need to ask for the resignation so we can, and that will create the ability to go out and ask somebody else. But to start looking for other people and then have to go through asking for a resignation, and probably Rich would be very happy to give it because he's just too busy. He can't do this. And he's a good guy, and we just have to say, look, you know, you don't come to meetings, you don't have the time. We'd like it if you would resign to open the position up to someone who can. And I think he would do it in a second.
So who would like to do, who should do that? Should it be the land use administrator, or should it be another person on the commission?
No, it should be a commission member, and I have said this before, and I'll say it again. I'm going to talk to Rich. I'll take it on.
And if you can't do it, I'm happy to. I know Rich really well.
Yeah,
More than happy to ask him.
Okay, so why don't we leave it with Wes for now? Thanks, Wes, for offering to do that, and we'll see what happens. We'll talk about it next month. Yeah,
that sounds good.
Okay. I think that's it, right? So we spoke about the regular member vacant position. I think we've got a path forward. Ty, would you like me to ask Alice, or do you want to reach out to Alice and ask her to forward you the information?
Yeah, I'm happy to get with Alice on that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ty. All right, that's great. So, you know, again, I mean, 5B2 would have been the orphan, the redheaded orphan, if not for you all.
Watch it.
All right, anyway, so we're on to report of officers and committees. This is agenda item number 8, and I don't think that any of us are doing anything that we're not all involved with and speaking about at least monthly. So I'll move on to agenda item 9, other communications, and 9A are the administrative permits and certificates of compliance. And I wonder whether anybody has any comments about those.
You know, I looked at everything and I read all those letters, every one of them, and I never even looked at that.
Yeah, right.
It just didn't even,
Oh.
I didn't get down to 9. 9 was like a place I didn't.
You don't need to have, you don't have to admit that.
That's right. All you have to know is that Veronique is putting in a pool that we approved, and Tim Sneller he's putting in a hot tub, and there's a kitchen addition that's going on. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 administrative permits issued, and nobody has been issued a certificate of compliance despite being asked for them when they weren't ready. And I hope I don't get too much grief for that comment. Desegregate Connecticut request. Don, I don't know what this means. I don't know what
You asked me to keep it on the agenda. It was that Sarah Truo, I think is how you say her name. I don't know. She just asked to be on your agenda to talk about desegregate Connecticut. This was on your agenda last month and you said keep it on for next month and we'll talk about it. I can take it off if you'd like. I can respectfully decline. I know you guys are super busy right now.
How about respectfully declining?
You know, I think let's respectfully decline with the option to come back to us when we're not so busy.
Makes sense.
No, I agree with that.
So table for the time being, and once we get through the regulation review, we just finished the POCD and the housing plan was finalized, and I would say maybe in the fall, let's bring it back up again, Ty. So rather than keep it on the agenda, just put it on your list to poke us in the fall.
Will do.
All right, great. Thank you.
Hey, Matt, I've had my electronic hand up. I don't know if you.
I did not notice, Jean, but I see you up there in the top upper right-hand, left-hand corner. So you have at it.
Yeah, I just wanted to pop in for the Desegregate Connecticut. They have a transit-oriented housing initiative that's called, I think, Live Work. Oh my gosh, it's so very late and it's been a sea of Zoom meetings today. But I would encourage the commission to go take a look at their website. They're working on a lot of initiatives that are, some of them are directed towards more suburban areas, but we have a railroad that comes through here. It's a lot about affording people places to live where they can work. And they're doing pretty important work, and they're actually doing pretty unique, innovative work. So I think it's worth a visit to desegregate.ct.org. I think it is. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you, Jean. I truly do appreciate your attendance. I mean, it's as you said, it's late. Although I know that's this is your witching hour. But thanks for sticking it out, and you too, Glenn.
Absolutely.
It's yeah, I
No
know
problem. Miniature apple pies in the background.
Glenn, you wanted to jump in and Glenn in a little bit?
No, I'm good. Great job today.
Thanks. All right, so let's move on to agenda item number 9C, which is the budget, July through February. Any comments? Ty, anything you need to alert us to that we're spending too much or we're earning too much or we're right in the zone?
You're doing good, actually. Yeah, I mean, you're over as far as the revenue coming in, on track with spending. There were a couple additional lines that ended up being plopped into the budget. If you see, that's what I had highlighted. It just out of nowhere, which is unusual. But I talked to the treasurer and she explained it was just kind of a error based on the time that the budget report was run. So I think those will go away.
And those are all zeros, right? So it's
yeah,
really,
yeah, it just concerned me because I thought it was maybe something new. I really didn't understand why it's odd to have new budget lines show up out of nowhere. So it's just error. There's no concern.
All right, great. Thank you, Ty. And then executive sessions. Any reason to go into executive session? I know we're going to be talking in executive session at just before our special meeting next week, right?
Yeah, so that's correct. I don't know that the rest of the members I haven't put out the agenda yet or reached out to them, but I did hear back from Katie and she said that her and her partner would like to come in at like 6:30 prior to the meeting with Glenn at 7 to give you an update on Reverdy. So we can do executive session at 6:30 and then Glenn will come in at 7 if that's good with everybody else.
Sounds good.
That's definitely good with me. And Gene, I'm glad you're here too, because I just wanted you to put that on your radar that that we'll be discussing in executive session the Roberti case on that night. That's
Yep.
Next Tuesday, the 16th.
Yep. And I had a quick
Thursday.
email from her that they're, working on the language. So that would make sense that they'll be ready for next week.
Great. I'm sorry, Ty, I misspoke. You said,
I said that's Thursday. I think you said Tuesday.
okay. I meant Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the open session involving the discussion regarding the executive sessions, I think we can pass over and get to the agenda item that we've been looking for.
Number 14. Lou?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
You guys are awesome.
So be
Thank you
it.
so much for hanging in and being so attentive and participatory.
And can I just say that I am so grateful for the truly civil discourse that you all have at your meetings. You have great respect for me. And Matt, I know how hard it is to run these meetings, and hats off to you all, and especially Matt for.
It's no lion team, baby.
It's just you guys, they may be long, but they're always a pleasure to come to, and you guys get an enormous amount of
Liar.
work done. No,
All right.
it's only a
thanks.
7 Zoom day, right?
Thanks, guys.
All right. Be good. Good night.
Good night.
Right.